4, they actually would have ended up with an even closer outcome here, and they could have actually scared us. We were never really worried when we were watching the game that it wasn't going to end up to be a 20-plus point win, because it always had a sense of inevitability about it, because one, Scotland were making errors and giving penalties away and hadn't learnt from the week before, and 2, England had a better calibre of player to select across the board overall. But you got to credit the way Scotland started the game, and you've got to question the way England started the game. Again, for the 3rd game in a row, I thought Luke Gale was ineffective. His distribution was poor in that first half an hour or so, and I don't want to knock him because I wanted him to do well, I really did, but in that first half an hour or so, I counted 4 or 5 hospital passes he threw where he caused errors, and he did set up the 2 tries for Whitehead, but the first one was off the back of great work from George Williams, who created a situation where there was space on the outside because he drew people in because he'd made a run and engaged people and that sort of thing. I think he might be one of the players whose place is under threat. Because I don't think he showed enough in any of the games, and this was a game. The France game and this game were 2 games where he was playing against players that were his level or below. That he's not had to. He wasn't having to raise his game for. He would just play the game he plays at Castleford, and he should be successful. And he didn't really deliver, and that's a shame because, like I say, I wanted him to do well. I really did. I wanted this partnership that played in this game to work out. One of them, I feel, did work out overall over the piece. He won the man of the match, didn't he, George Williams? He had a couple of assists. He had, big plays that.
Oh, he was everywhere.
Created where it was going. Well, the 3 assists he made.
Where it was going well for England attack, and when we clicked, it was around George Williams. I would say so.
I think the other player who I was a little bit disappointed with was Scott Taylor. He made a couple of errors early on, didn't he? Penalties and dropped balls, and then he looked like he was going to get into the swing of things for some really powerful run and a couple of tough tackles, but he didn't kick on, and I really wanted him to, because I thought he deserved the selection in the side. Again, though, the way the bench was managed was a little bit weird, stacking the 2 Burgess boys together, so you're putting power on power, I suppose, and it did work against a weaker Scotland pack than the Kiwi pack we played the week before. But
next weekend that'll crumble.
It's not gonna. You're going to lose control again, aren't you?
Absolutely.
From the Scotland side of things, I thought the back. Coop maybe wasn't that involved. I didn't think. I wasn't really impressed with how much he put himself into the game. No. But the other members of the backs were all quite good. The 2 wingers were very exciting, particularly at dummy half. The centres did a lot of work, and obviously there was a try grab there for Linnett, and
Matty Russell's finish for his try was just sickening. Only in terms of how wonderful.
I managed to go to the toilet and the bar whilst they were deliberating on the decision. Ben Thaler, though, did his Ben Thaler move and overturned a try that no other referee this season would have overturned. I don't believe, watching it back, that there was conclusive evidence that his hand was still on the ball when it was touched down. Honestly, I don't believe that. He was definitely not in touch because he was on the player, on the England defender. But I don't believe there was conclusive evidence to overturn the on-field decision that it was no try. And yet, Ben Thaler, the renegade,
he is
throws up the TRY.
Just drops bombs everywhere he goes.
But it gives us that moment. It gives us the moment to talk about it. It gives us the chance to say it was a spectacular. Because now we're saying it is a try, whatever. It was a spectacular finish, and you've got to enjoy it for that. Circus behaviour.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I take nothing away from Matty Russell, even though I perhaps don't think Ben Thaler applied the laws of the game particularly rigidly to his interpretation of it. So,
I'm not sure there was any other particularly standout performances for the Scots. Although talk about Helliwell and Ferguson as well, I suppose. They put in big tackle numbers, 44 and 41 respectively. Luke Douglas put in 45 tackles, so there was some hard working defensive players. Of course, they had to work all a little bit harder because of because of the mouth that is Danny Brough.
Yeah.
Not only did he manage to kick out on the full twice, which put his team without any hope of ever sort of wresting control back in the game, he also got himself sin-binned, which kind of... Well, England didn't take full advantage because we should have been absolutely piling on the points at that stage, but we scored 2 more tries, didn't we, in the last 20 minutes or so? But when was he sin-binned? He was sin-binned 58 minutes.
There you go.
And England at that stage then scored 3 more tries, and Scotland scored 1 try. And the 3 more tries at that stage in total, 2 during the sin-bin period, 1 straight away after, probably isn't good enough. And we had to really wait till one of the magic moments of the game, a little bit of luck with the kick, the way it deflected, but Liam Farrell scoring sort of after the hooter on the double penalty situation. Ryan Hall's try was a great play, and so was Mark Percival's try, who was excited to see in the side, to be completely honest.
That as well. Yeah, very much so.
As much as I have good feelings for Dan Sarr.
Okay, everyone, sorry to interrupt and interject on Mark. We've had a very brief and minor technical difficulty. We've lost our place ever so slightly, but we are back, so apologies for that. To the fan reviews on... It was a good thing we bloody caught it as early as we did. Do you remember that time we did an episode and then had to do the whole episode again, like early... Was it about midway through season 1? Do you remember that night when I was Lindsay and I were still living together?
I think it was a more significant portion of...
We'd done virtually a whole show.
Yeah.
And then it just went.
Yeah.
That was a heartbreaking night. We're not doing that again, are we?
No, but it was a show that was... It was an important show, I remember. So that's why we redid it.
Yeah. Fortunately, we've caught ourselves. Okay, so, to your fan reviews then. Alfie Garnett got in touch. He said, simply not good enough. Bit of a shake-up needed for next week. Williams in for Gale, I presume he means Widdop. And Clark starts for my money. Taylor in for one of the lump twins, but well done, Williams. Clap, clap, clap. Tyler Casfan said...
Hold on. Taylor played too, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
Maybe he means Graham. Hopefully Graham is back.
Yeah. I would hope so as well. Tyler Casfan, England stuttered through that game. Only Brough's sin-binning helped us get any sort of rhythm. Williams, very effective in the second half, but 7 out of 10 at best for the others. And final word on this we'll give to Alan Walker, our friend. He says, Supercoach Bennett's methods are starting to take effect as England keeps Scotland to just 12 points, Mark, which is a very positive way of looking at it. Australia will have trouble sleeping before next weekend. Poor crowd, and most of them seem to be Wasps fans. Does that mean that RFL fans wouldn't go, or does it mean that we've recruited 15,000 Union fans? Only time will tell. Now, for the headline bout on the card, Kangaroos versus the Kiwis. Well, unfortunately, Alan, I think you probably hit the nail on the head there. I don't think we've recruited 15,000 Union fans, and it unfortunately is a hallmark of our game at the minute, Mark, that league fans don't travel.
We don't turn up to watch teams play. No, good ticket prices.
Fabulous day out.
Okay, we didn't know about the fixtures very long in advance, but I think we knew well enough in advance.
Yeah.
It's not actually that far to go from the league heartlands. We were down.
We were astounded by how quickly we got there, weren't we? It was doable.
Yeah,
we're too club centric at times, I think, and it was a doable day.
No, we're too. Is it in my backyard on the one day of the week that I think it's acceptable for me to go to rugby league games?
Yeah.
Don't ask me to inconvenience myself to go and watch the sport. That's what we are.
No, I agree. Right, okay, into the final game of this episode of the Super League Pod then. New Zealand 8, Australia 14. New Zealand tries coming from Kata and Rapana. Australia got theirs through Touchy Ferguson and Jonathan Thurston, with Thurston kicking 3 goals, ultimately making the difference, for Australia, who never looked uncomfortable in this one, and perhaps a flattering scoreline, Mark.
It was the most dominant, biggest hammering of any 14-8 scoreline I've ever experienced. 2 tries each, but one side absolutely dominated the game from start to 75th minute. And then we saw one flashy piece of brilliance from Sean Johnson, that where he chipped it over, and you can see him running through. He sort of has a little glance to the side, reads where the defenders are, and so trusts his men then to be there for the flick pass that he manages to flow very quickly. Great hands, great skill, great trust in the outside men, great reading of the field as he's going through, because it was so ever so slight that if you watch the footage when he just runs past the Australian man that he kicked it over, honestly, it's the slightest of glances, And it's like, if you're not looking for it, you miss it, sort of thing. It's such brilliant execution from him, and you've got to be impressed with that sort of skill. But throughout the rest of the game, he didn't show any of that sort of abilities, really, unfortunately. The guy who controlled the game against England was kicking dead. There was one right in front of us that just flew off his boot, dead. He was never exerting the sort of pressure, whereas on the other side of things, Australia were doing all of that and more throughout the game. It felt to me, didn't feel as physical and intense.
No,
as the normal Australia-New Zealand game, but maybe the crowd, it was cold by that point. Some people had started to leave, or some people were as hammered as we were. And there was murmurs. We were getting up occasionally if a penalty happened, or we thought there was going to be a bit more than a light fracas. But yeah, overall, Australia were just clinical, calculating, clever.
Absolutely. Who stood up well in terms of stats then for us in this game?
Well, I'll run through some of... Big performer. We don't like him off the field, but on the field he's shown to be quite good for Australia, better than his club form was. Blake Ferguson, he had 214 metres and 2 clean breaks off his 19 carries, which is absolutely phenomenal. And on the other wing, similarly, Valentine Holmes, off 13 carries, had 172 metres. Now, I think a lot of the work to set them up for space was done by, one, the New Zealand kicking game being a bit poor and kicking a bit far sometimes, giving a lot more space. But Darius Boyd was throwing these long passes out to bring in his three quarters, to give them more space when they got the ball immediately, the quicker men outside of him, sort of thing. And that set them up for quite a lot, especially for their early in the game, their ability to get over the halfway line quite easily, Australia, whereas the Kiwis were struggling to do the same. If anything, the leveler in terms of things was Australia made quite a few more errors in the first period, and that was a leveler there, I thought. But other players who stood out, I mean, Cameron Smith made 43 tackles. There was 137 metres for Dave Clemmer off the bench, 148 metres for Boyd Cordner, 118 metres for Aaron Ward, and 111 metres for Matthew Smith. Justin O'Neill was another player who really excited me inside of Gropey Boy. 162 metres for him, and I actually think he showed every bit that he's an international calibre player, and it wasn't just a fluke that he's had a good spell at the Cowboys. He's a really good player. I think he's showing that now at rep level. For the Kiwis, 158 metres for Jordan Rapana. Obviously, he scored. He was the beneficiary of the great play by Sean Johnson. He also had that break, I think, in the first half, if I remember right. Memory's a bit sketchy about this one, where he did that roly-poly. Yeah. That was quite fun. We also have there Jason Tamalolo. I mean, he's probably one of the players of the series already. 160 metres in this one, and 126 for Sean Kenny Dowell, 115 for Jordan Carr, who's also very good with the boot, but not in this game, strangely enough. And 109 metres for Jesse Bromwich, but some 42 tackles for Kevin Proctor and 47 successful tackles for Tohu Howard as well, so that they worked hard. I mean, how did you make of... Do you remember much of it?
Not a tremendous amount, Mark, I'll be perfectly honest with you.
This was the game I fell over during.
It was. So you sustained a head injury. I spent a lot of time talking to the two lasses in front of us and their very nice boyfriend, or their very nice companion, who, that was right, was trying to get me to come to a strip bar in Coventry with him. Said you could have got me in even though I was in trainers.
He was the boyfriend of only one of the two girls.
Possibly so. Well, I don't know. I've got a great photo. I had a great photo. I've deleted it now because it's just cluttered on my phone. We took a selfie with them all, and basically
that I have no recollection of.
Me and these two lasses grinning because we've been having a great time, and you were just pecking this guy's head. You were chatting away, and he was looking fuming in the background. But then there's another one of us all together, and he's grinning. So obviously, no harm done.
I don't think there was any. No, we were talking about the event and all that sort of stuff, actually, and he was actually, if I remember right, interested to hear about stuff like the Coventry Bears and stuff because he didn't know much about the rugby league
Well,
scene.
lovely in front of us. There was nothing. There was no hard feelings. But no, my memory's a little bit hazy, and like you